Now, I'm Srishti Sharma and with me is Kanishka, and indeed it was the big win yesterday actually for India, because India has clinched its 9th Asia Cup title, beating the arch rival Pakistan by 5 wickets to remain unbeaten through the tournament. Now, Tilak Verma held his nerve with a gritty unbeaten 69 in what turned out to be a crippling and controversial final in Dubai. In a dramatic turn, the men in blue refused to accept the trophy from Asian Cricket Council President and PCB Chief. Instead, they mounted the dais on their own, celebrating with their fans amid confetti and victory anthem without the silverware. Now, adding to the emotion of the night, skipper Surya Kumar Yadav announced he would donate his entire match fees to the Indian Armed Forces, and the BCCI has now sweetened the celebrations further, declaring a 21 crore reward for the players and support the staff as well. With this, let me take it across to my colleague Karishma, who was at the Dubai International Stadium. Karishma.
India have beaten Pakistan, and what a performance this has been by the Indian team. You know, Abhishek Sharma got out early, Shubman Gill, we were 20 for 3 at that point in time, but a lot of faith in Tilak Verma, and he's proved everyone right that he is here to stay in the T20 format as well. A very, a good performance under pressure from Tilak Verma as well. So a lot to look forward to when we talk about this Asia Cup win, because we also have the T20 World Cup that is coming in 2026. India fans, of course, waving and very, very happy with this win. So it is going to be a win to remember for the Indian team, and also for all the Indian cricket fans. India versus Pakistan has always been called an arch rivalry, but Surya Kumar Yadav made sure to say it in the press conference in as many words that there is no rivalry anymore, because the stats are not in Pakistan's favor, and that rivalry has only gone from bad to worse if we talk about the statistics. So obviously the Indian team will be extremely high on confidence when we talk about this Asia Cup win, when we talk about them being the Asia Cup champions, and they are going to be looking forward to the World Cup with immense confidence now. So a lot has happened in Dubai, but the Indian team is going to be returning as the Asia Cup champions from here.
All right, what a win it was, really, Srishti. But then let's also take a look at how the global handover has been as far as the markets are concerned, but not so much good news coming from the US markets. They did end lower the last week as cracks appeared in one of the strongest pillars of the rally, that is artificial intelligence. Now, Nvidia's massive $100 billion partnership with OpenAI, that sparked doubts about the sustainability of AI-driven growth, cooling investor sentiment for AI-driven stocks. Now, if you take a look at the major, indices, the S&P 500, that slipped about 0.3%, which is its worst week since August 1st, and now it just sits at 0.8% below the record high levels. The Nasdaq, on the other hand, that dropped about 0.7%, also its weakest in nearly 2 months, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average, that was down about 0.2%, which was its first loss in 3 weeks. Now, if you take a look at some of the macro data, weekly jobless gains came in lower than expected, and second quarter GDP was revised up sharply to 3.8%. Now, stronger numbers did raise concerns that the Fed could delay rate cuts going forward, threatening one of the bull market's key strong supports. Now, all eyes are now on the September non-farm payrolls data that is due later this week, that is on Friday. Meanwhile, the street is hoping for a so-called Goldilocks number, not too strong to keep the Fed hawkish, but not too weak to signal a slowdown as well. Now, despite the pullback, markets are still on track for gains this month. The S&P 500 is up about 2.8%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, that has added about 1.5%, whereas the Nasdaq, that is leading the rally with nearly 3% of gains for the month. So that's how the US markets are looking. That's the kind of handover we have received from the US. But what about the rest of the markets, Srishti?
Let's start with the crude and the gold oil prices, because crude on Friday, we have seen that particular commodity on the surge on the back of Ukraine drone attacks on Russia. At one point in time, Brent crude was above that $70 per barrel mark, but for now it's trading and hovering around that $69 per barrel mark. So a bit of a movement over there. But when it comes to the gold prices as well, they continue to shine bright as the PCE data keeps the Fed cut beats alive, and along with that, just on Friday we have seen a bit of a surge, and as of now as well, it's trading above that 3800 per ounce mark. So yes, of course, both the commodities are on the up move. But Kanishka, what about the Asian markets?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's about the commodity markets. But if you take a look at the Asia Pacific markets, it's a Monday morning and they have opened up mixed. With the Reserve Bank of Australia, that is expected to kickstart its two-day policy meeting today. So let's see how the markets are reacting to that. First up, Australia's ASX is trading. Let's take a look at how the numbers are looking. It is trading nearly 8% higher at that 8,860 odd level. On the other hand, Japan's Nikkei, that's the one that we are tracking at this hour. It's also Japan's Nikkei that also has started. That is actually the one that is trading in the red right now, down about 0.8% at that 44,960 odd level. On the other hand, we have Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index, which is on the higher side. It's trading up about 0.7% at that 26,320 odd level. So that's as far as the Hong Kong markets are concerned. But on the other hand, there's China's Shanghai Index, which is currently trading in the red. It's absolutely flat, but on the red side at that 3,815 odd level, down about 0.3% right now. So that's largely how the Asian markets have opened up. If we take a look at the Nifty, we did end below that 24,700 mark. In fact, just near that 24,650 mark on Friday. But today we are expecting a positive start. Nearly 100 points higher is what we are expecting for the D3 today. That is 0.5% higher is what we are likely to open today.
The picture is looking better than what we have seen back on Friday, because it was a sea of red across. Just a handful of counters were actually trading in the green back on Friday. L&T was the top mover, followed by Tata Motors, ITC as well as Reliance. But on the flip side, all the other counters on the Nifty 50 side, almost around 44 stocks were actually seen to be declining. And even the breadth of the market was actually quite very weak. If we talk about Nifty 50, that did break below that 24,700 mark for itself. Even Bank Nifty, more than 500 points of decline is what we have seen. And along with that, even the breadth of the market was not looking that great, and even India Wix did shot up almost 6%. And even when it comes to the broader markets, especially when it comes to the mid-cap and the small-cap indices, they were also seen to be on the decline. Pharma, of course, was the biggest loser on the back of that tariff announcement of 100% tariff on branded drugs. Even IT was seen to be on the back foot, and along with that, some of these counters that have been doing very well, case in point being Zomato, M&M, they were actually the top drags on the Nifty 50. But this particular week is going to be again an interesting one, given the fact that we will have the monthly options expiry, so all eyes will be on that.
That's right. So all eyes on the monthly options expiry. But moving on, let's also take stock of some top global stories that we are tracking this morning. Now, trade tensions between India and US, they are heating up. Now, after Washington slapped 100% tariffs on pharma and 50% of Indian and Brazilian goods, US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick warned both the nations to play ball with American interests. Now, a high-level delegation led by Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal just wrapped up meetings in Washington, exploring the contours of a possible deal. My colleague Sumita Karir is here with all the details. Sumita, over to you.
Well, it seems that the U.S. administration is continuing to put pressure on India, because now, in the very latest, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has stated that India and Brazil, they need to react correctly to the United States. And in fact, went on to say that the United States will have to, quote-unquote, fix a bunch of countries. That includes India and Brazil. And the fact that both the countries need to open up their market, avoid policies that harm American interests, and that trade imbalances need to be addressed. However, in fact, they will be sorted out, but they will take time. Remember, this is happening at a time when a team led by Commerce and Industry Minister was in the United States for trade talks. In fact, also the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, also met with Marco Rubio. Broad contours of the ties between the two nations were discussed, along with trade talks happened. And of course, India faces 50% tariffs from the United States. So this sort of language, this sort of communication coming in at a time when trade talks are currently going on, goes on to suggest how pressure is building up from the United States on India for reducing its energy trade with Russia. In fact, we're given to understand from sources that at the moment, as far as these trade talks between US and India are concerned, a major issue that's emerging that seems to be India's energy trade with Russia. India will, from what we're given to understand from the commentaries coming in from various ministers, that India-Russia ties are on solid footing, and of course India will sort of take its decision on oil purchases that's based on current market price and of course the availability of oil in the market. So that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is that India is not bowing down, because Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister in the United States at UNGA, warned of tariff volatility, market uncertainty. He also claimed that de-risking is a growing compulsion and that we need to resist political interference, and India will always maintain its freedom of a choice. That really goes on to show perhaps how India will remain independent as far as its sovereign decisions are concerned, so whether it's related to trade with other countries or its energy purchases.
All right, thank you so much, Samita, for getting us all those details. In fact, let's listen in to External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on trade, terrorism and more, while he urged for reforms at the United Nations.
The resulting concentration exposed the world to leveraging. On top of that, we now see tariff volatility and uncertain market access. As a result, de-risking is a growing compulsion, whether from limited sources of supply or over-dependence on a particular market. Economic concerns have other dimensions as well. Heightened technology control is one. The grip on supply chains and critical minerals is another. The shaping of connectivity is no less sensitive. Protection of key sea lanes has become a challenge. Restricting the evolution of a global workplace is an issue. Each makes a compelling case for more international cooperation, not less.
All right, so those are the latest comments that we're tracking from External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. But on that note, we'll take a very short break. Be right back with more news and updates coming up on the other side.
Chinese group touting ironclad data controls and propaganda-proof algorithm. Now, this follows Trump's executive order green-lighting a $14 billion deal. Now, a new U.S.-led joint venture takes the wheel with Oracle, Silver Lake and Abu Dhabi's MGX as key players. In some of the other news today, all eyes will be on Tata Motors because in a high-stakes rescue for Britain's auto crown jewel, the government announced a £1.5 billion loan guarantee for Jaguar Land Rover, which is reeling from a cyber attack that's ideated the factories for nearly a month now, where the government blasted the hack as an assault on our world-leading sector. Backed by UK Export Finance, this private cash infusion shields the supply chain, safeguards skilled workers, and aims to reboot the production by October 1st.
All right, then moving on with pharma done, the Trump administration is now weighing a new tariff plan targeting foreign electronic devices based on their chip content that's aiming to incentivize domestic manufacturing. And the Commerce Department would levy a percentage-based tariff on the estimated value of chips within each product. Now, White House spokesperson stated that America cannot be reliant on foreign imports for semiconductor products that are essential for our national and economic security.
All right. Along with that, let's also tell you which are some of the other counters that will be in focus today on the back of the news flow. And firstly, let's talk about InterArc Building, because the company has come out with the new plant in Andhra Pradesh to have a capacity of 25,000 million tons. In the first phase, where the plans of the company is to invest almost 100 crores in the new plant and to start the production by the end of Q2 of FY27. Other than that, all eyes will be on Utkarsh Small Finance Bank as well, as the company will consider the fundraise via issuance of equity shares on October 1st. Vascon Engineering is going to be the other counter, wherein the company has signed a 5-year MOU with Adani Infra as execution partner for select projects. And these are some of the counters that we will be watching. And along with that, let's also talk about Dollar Industries, because the company has also come out with the announcement where they have proposed the merger of 9 promoter group companies into the listed company. So indeed a positive news flow coming in on Dollar Industries, and along with that, OneSource Pharma. That is going to be another counter to watch out for, as there's a strategic transaction worth $2.7 billion, wherein the company has guided for a 500 million plus revenue, 40% and above margins, likely to see a premium of 18 to 20%, and there is a share swap as well to cause 18.5 dilution, wherein the deal is expected to close in the next 15 months. So all eyes will be on that, as the company has announced a strategic transaction worth $2.7 billion to Steer Science and Brooks Steer Science Company. So we will be watching out for this stock as well.
Right, so lots of counters to track today. But Sharad, let's also come to you. Which are the stocks that you are tracking this morning? Lots of business updates and management changes there.
Interestingly, a weaker update coming in from HUL for the second quarter, and the company has stated that the Q2 growth is expected to be near flat to low single digit. Also, interestingly, this would be seen in the month of October as well. There are key concerns coming from HUL. This includes recovery expected from November, as the prices are expected to stabilize, and the distributors and retailers, there has been a distribution coming in to clear the old inventory at the older prices. But largely, these things are already factored in the market as well. Tata Motors, a lot of negative news flows there, and stocks were in selling pressure. Entire Tata Group in the last trading session, but Tata Motors positive news flows is coming in. Board has appointed Shailesh Chandra as the MD and CEO for 3 years from October 1st, and PB Balaji will be joining CFO of JLR UK. Interestingly, UK government has backed JLR's request for a $1.5 billion loan guarantee, and of course this is coming on the back of the cyber security issues which were pertinent. Also, interestingly, NHTSA, they have stated that JLR North America has filed a recall of almost 3,318 US vehicles as well. Segal India, they have a JV with SSPL, and that roughly comes in at roughly 509 crore rupees. It's positive for the company. Apart from this, PG Electroplast, strong news flow coming in, as they plan to invest 1,000 crore rupees in a manufacturing facility in Andhra Pradesh, and they'll be buying around 50 acres in Sri City. Also, BML, they have a tripartite MOU with Bharat Forge Data Patents for the new AMCA project.
Right, thank you so much, Sharath, for getting us all those details. But moving on to another news, wherein Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the UP International Trade Show in Greater Noida on Thursday, where global and Indian exhibitors showcased the products and innovations, and made in UP drones powered the state's technological powerhouse AIM. And Times Network Kritika Tiwari joins in with more details.
Uttar Pradesh has emerged as a significant startup hub with now over 17,000 startups and 8 unicorns. In fact, there are 63 incubation centers as well, and 1,000 crore Uttar Pradesh Startup Fund in place to support innovative next-gen technology that can transform the state into, in fact, a global technological hub. On your screens, what you're seeing is the result of such positive policies, wherein we are having a Made in India, a Made in UP drone manufacturing company, which is in fact the largest in the country itself. This specific startup, this company has been able to sell about 550 drones to the armed forces, out of which 250 have gone to the paramilitary forces as well. Now, both the design and the manufacture here is done purely in Uttar Pradesh, purely in India as well. None of this is in fact imported. The drone on your screens that you're seeing at the moment, it's one of the swarm drones released by this company, which in fact features the country's first IC engine that is not based on any combustion model as well. So all of this innovation we're seeing happening in our very own state. In fact, it has a payload capacity of also 5 kgs and in fact...
Alright, so that's about UP's technological powerhouse aim. But moving on, indigenous and specialized products of 75 districts are also being promoted in the local and global market. And the highlight, the One District, One Product initiative has various products that were showcased in the UP International Trade Show. Kritika is back with us to take us through all of them.
India's path to prosperity lies in promoting local industries. This is in fact the key mission and vision with which Prime Minister Modi had inaugurated the Uttar Pradesh International Trade Show. And one of the key, in fact, policies that are being highlighted at this show here is the One District, One Product initiative of the Uttar Pradesh government. Now, this project aims at, in fact, highlighting the specialized and indigenous products of about 75 districts of Uttar Pradesh. On your screens, we were able to spot the glassware of Firozabad. In fact, Aligarh's metal and hardware artifacts is also prominently displayed. The lacquerware and toys of Varanasi is also having quite a moment here at this, in fact, One District, One Product display that is going on at the Uttar Pradesh International Trade Show. All across, you'll be able to see how visitors have also, in fact, come in to get a glimpse of the different products that are being showcased here. Remember, there are many traders who have also come in here to set up their stalls from not just from artifacts, in fact, but also to food items are also being displayed. Currently joining us is the Assistant Commissioner in the Industries Department also. So tell us about how this policy is specifically aimed at promoting MSMEs. Trade कैसे बढ़ रहा है उत्तर प्रदेश में through this policy?
Actually, ODOP स्कीम लॉन्च किया गया था 2018 में यूपी दिवस 24 जनवरी के दिन. उस टाइम हमारे कुल 52 प्रोडक्ट्स थे. अभी वर्तमान में बढ़ के 120 प्लस प्रोडक्ट्स हो गए हैं सारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में मिला के. इससे हमारे जो लोकल आर्टिसंस थे, जो भी ट्रेडिशनल आर्टिसंस थे, उनके प्रोडक्ट को हम लोग मार्केट करते हैं और उनके लिए ट्रेडिशनली पैकेजिंग का और जो भी आपका जो भी टेक्नोलॉजी अपग्रेडेशन में भी हम लोग उनका हेल्प करते हैं बाय गिविंग कैपिटल सब्सिडी. या और अभी हमारे पास जितने सारे प्रोडक्ट डिस्प्ले हो रखे हैं, इनको किसी नॉर्मल जो भी आम पब्लिक है वो भी खरीद सकती है. स्टॉल नंबर 9 हम लोगों का जो बाहर लगा हुआ है वहाँ से. अब ये सिर्फ डिस्प्ले के लिए है, लेकिन ये सारे प्रोडक्ट्स आपके वहाँ पे अवेलेबल हैं. वहाँ 100%
in fact the keyword that is coming in, that capital subsidy is also provided to these local craftsmen. All across you'll be able to see different, in fact, artifacts that have been displayed, and people also coming in from all across Uttar Pradesh. We've also heard about how people from other states are also coming in to get a glimpse of this. Remember, this rich diversity is also signifying the vocal for local and the Swadeshi push, which is making this state self-reliant in terms of having different opportunities at trade and empowering the local craftsperson.
All right, thank you so much, Kritika, for getting us all those details. We're moving on to another news flow, and India aims to become top 10 maritime nations by 2030. Yes, that's the word coming in from India's Shipping Minister, Sarbananda Sonowar. To catch more of the exclusive conversation, tune in at 10 a.m. today only on ET Now.
Cabinet has approved all the 3 important pillars for the speedy growth of this particular industry. And India, as you know, as the important vision given by our Honorable Prime Minister, Maritime India Vision 2030, Maritime Amritkal Vision 2047. We have set our target very clear that by 2030, India is becoming one of the top 10 shipbuilding nation in the world.
All right, so that is ET Now's latest conversation with India's Shipping Minister. But on that note, we'll take a very short break. Be right back with more news and updates coming up on the other side. Saurabh Mukherjee has clarified in a statement that no client funds were impacted, stressing that the irregularities were confined to the firm's own corporate accounts. Now, the company says it detected the issue internally and has filed an FIR while pursuing legal action. Let's take a look at his comments.
I wanted to let you know that on 25th September 2025, Marcellus filed an FIR with the Mumbai police. This is with respect to our ex-CFO, who we believe has misappropriated from the firm 1 crore rupees and 18 lakhs. We're following up with the authorities so that action is taken against the relevant individual. Client monies are not affected by this. Client monies are kept in a separate bank account, which is with our custodians, and client monies are utterly unaffected. Business continues as usual in Marcellus. Your investments are unaffected by this, and we hope that the authorities will help us bring the ex-CFO to justice. Thank you for your cooperation.
All right, then moving on, India's auto sector has shifted into festive overdrive this Navratri. Overall sales have climbed 15% on a year-on-year basis, led by passenger vehicles that are up 20% and two-wheelers that are up 14%. Now, dealers and FIIs say that this September marks the start of a strong growth cycle for auto retail. Srishti is here to take us through the details. Srishti, over to you.
Well, yes, auto sector has seen a very good surge in sales number. If we see the first 5 sales of Navratri, and these days have turned out to be really good for the auto sales sector because everybody has been waiting out to make those purchases on an overall basis across the sector. As we look at into the FII data and the Vahan data as well, we get to see the auto sector has seen a surge of almost 15%. Now, along with that, it's the passenger vehicle segment that is seen to be taking the lead with almost a 20% jump. If we compare the first 5 days of Navratri sales as per Vahan, and there we get to see that the industry has actually registered vehicles of over 85,000, and on a year-on-year basis, it's a jump of 20%. This is to be followed by LCV segment, which is the second top gainer. Almost a 16% growth is what we have seen on that particular segment. When it comes to the two-wheeler space, a 14% growth. Three-wheelers have seen a surge of 13%, but it's a bit surprising that the MHCV segment is once again seen to be on the back foot with just 6% of a gain coming in over there. And lastly, from the tractor division as well, a 10% growth is what the industry has registered. But do remember that this particular month, wherein the first half was actually affected by Shraddh period, and everybody has been waiting out to make the purchases after 22nd of September, and that's what we have seen on the number front as well. To all the industry experts we keep talking, they are optimistic that it will continue for quite some time. It will stretch to Dussehra as well as Diwali is also expected to be a blockbuster for the auto sales data this time around.
All right, stellar auto sales coming in. Thank you, Srishti, for that update. But let's also listen into what Satish Meena, the founder at Datum Intelligence, had to say on the stellar festive sales on e-commerce platforms, and how is this festive season panning out for the retail sector amid GST rate rationalization. Let's take a look.
When we talk to operators, I think they are also seeing almost 10 to 15% growth in their sales across categories. So they are also good because ultimately GST returns is for everyone to see. And the other thing is, for some period of time, we're seeing a continuous decline in footfall in malls. We expect that to come back during this festive period, at least for this month. And let's see how it goes.
And experiences are going to be key, events are going to be key, and events economy with the onset of the festive season gets caked off, and that remains to be seen on the kind of impact that this is going to have on overall retail numbers. But Mr. Meena, when you talk about e-commerce sales, you have mentioned 5 billion has been clocked in just the past 7 days.
That's right.
How does that change the estimates that you have for e-commerce growth this year versus last year?
So that was saying, last year...
Overall.
Yeah, so last year we estimated around 94,000 crore during the whole month of festive. This year our estimate is around 1.2 lakh crore, and based on these numbers I think we are in line.
But how does that change the overall growth figure for e-commerce this fiscal? I'm talking about the whole fiscal.
So last year if we saw, the overall e-commerce market grew around 15 to 18%. The growth was not that great, and it was the slowest in last 5 to 6 years. This year we saw the first quarter starting from March, things were looking good. We have seen uptick in sales in March. Then again, the Amazon Prime Day went well. And now this festival is doing well. So we are expecting around more than 20% growth this year as compared to last year.
All right, but for this fierce time now to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere, lots more to talk about on the other side. Some more interesting numbers. Ankur.
Yes, interesting numbers from first 5 days of Navratri as far as payments are concerned, and let us start with credit cards, which is an interesting data from September 22 to 26. We compared with first 5 days of Navratri in 2024, and that was October 3 to October 7. And we have found that 44,526 crore is the spending which has been done by the users in this period, and which is 33% more. Let me also talk about the granular data. If you talk about the day one, this already surpassed 12,945 crore, which was 53% more than the last year. And however, if you talk about day 2, day 3, it consistently maintained the run rate of 30%. And overall, as you can see, 33% was the figure which was there for credit card, but same figure is not there for debit cards. If you talk about debit cards, 10% lower figures are there, and overall granular details does say that yes, on day one debit card transactions did surge, but overall it did dip as the week gone by. And although if you talk about day 4, which we have done like-to-like comparison, the data says that 6% more spending was done, that is on Thursday, Thursday last week compared to what happened on October 6th last year. But overall, yes, the data says that 10% downtick is there for debit card spending. If you see about UPI, that there is also a slight dip, or it has maintained the kind of spending which was done in the same period. You can see 4.1 lakh crore is the figure which is there for UPI spending, and that is down 2% if you do like-to-like comparison with last year. But there is also details coming in for IMPS, the quick transactions which people use for transfers. There also 6% downtick is there for IMPS transactions. And it started on day 1. If you talk about the granular data, 17% down on day 1. If you talk about comparison with last year, similarly day 2 was also down around 19%, which later on picked on of day 4 and day 5. And if you talk about particularly our day 4, it did pick on around 50%. And that remained around 21,619 crore IMPS transactions, which happened on last week on Thursday. So day 4, there was slight pickup in IMPS as well as debit card transactions. But let's also take a look on the other transactions which are there. You talk about RTGS, and that is something which is given the big booster. RTGS, you can see the overall figure 44.92 lakh crore, and how much is the change? The change is 61%. The RTGS has been used quite a lot this time if you compared with the last Navratri, and all the days almost it is beaten by between 10 to 50%, even the day-wise comparison. But more importantly, let's also take the big picture where we stand on day 5 of the Navratri spending last week. Overall, the like-to-like comparison of last year and this year needs to be kept in mind, because last time when we compared, it was from Thursday till Tuesday. But this time we are comparing Monday to Friday. So yes, the weekend data is yet to come, but overall if you see, the data is suggesting that we have spent quite a lot compared to last year.
All right, thanks Ankur for all those details. On that note, we'll take a very short break. Be right back with more news and updates on the other side.
Has come out with a pre-quarter update on the back of the GST impact. They're saying that 40% of their portfolio, so including soap, toothpaste, shampoo, hair oil, talcum powder, all of these are going to be affected and impacted by GST cuts to now 5% from either 12 or 18 earlier. And they're saying that they've already started passing the benefits of this either through pricing or a value enhancement in terms of grammage. Now here's what they say the impact on their business could be. They're saying it's a one-off transitory impact that they're seeing for Q2. Distributors and retailers, so some disruption has been seen on that front because they are trying to clear inventory at old prices. On the flip side, orders have been postponed as buyers are waiting a lower price inventory, on the back of which pantry purchases have also been delayed, and September sales inventory is also going to be impacted. So they say that the consolidated Q2 performance could be seen near flat to low single digit, and recovery could be seen in November because this could be seen in October as well. So that's the update coming in from HUL before the Q2 earnings.
Much Snehi for all those details, but time now to wrap this edition of Market Cafe. Thank you so much for tuning in.
भाई ऑन रोड या ऑफ रोड?
रोड ट्रिप पे किस बाइक की सवारी होगी, ये खूबसूरत चिंता आप करिए। टू व्हीलर लोन की चिंता हम संभाल लेंगे विद स्पॉट अप्रूव।